You were born to live a brilliant life and make a contribution to the evolution of our world. We each are, and we do that when we embody our authentic selves and decide to do that job that we were given, because we each have one, it's internal. And we run into difficulty in our lives and also in our world when we forget or choose not to do it. And I've been not doing it or attempting to forget. We live at a time of great transformation in our world, and we've all felt it over the past many years. But we've also experienced other times in our history where we've moved through these periods. And it depends on how many of us decide to remember who we are. Today is January the 30th, and I had a message that I received from Wilhelm said, "You will experience more of your freedom today." And that is the freedom for all of us to remember that worth and value that we have. But a lot of times it's talked out of us, and we don't believe it, or we don't believe it's us. And I'm telling you, it's you. Because I was given the philosophy that could change your life and our world, but I was ignoring it and denying it. And because of that, I would suffer in my own life just as you would. So today is the day to change that. We move through evolutionary periods where we have power struggles, where we don't understand our importance, or we can look back at history and see all of that. But I did something else. I started to connect with a universal consciousness that said every person matters and has worth and value. I didn't know this was going to be my life or this is what I was going to live, but I did. But I kept hiding it. I kept holding it back. And then I'm watching the world move in a direction that it was not comfortable for many of us, and I know that I have the solution to that. So that's what I'm talking about today. And I wrote a little article. I'm going to give you a little PDF that I put together because we're witnessing many things in the United States, particularly, and all of the information I received from Wilhelm started coming through talking about this time in 2020. So I put together something. I just analyzed that information to give it to you so we would see or understand, give you a greater understanding of what you're feeling, because it's emotional. When we're moving through tension and trauma in our world we experience, it affects all of us. And so it's challenging for us to really live a great, prosperous life if we're not understanding what's occurring, or if we're not willing to embody who we are meant to become in this world. And I wasn't doing that fully. But I wrote that article, but then I decided to do something else because I said, let me research and see, because Wilhelm kept talking to me about other times that we had moved through this. So I went back to look at Germany, which is the time that we remember great change in our lives, and we have patterns. We have cycles that we will move through in our history, but also in our lives. We have to decide if we're going to move to that higher state of ability within each of us, and that's what I had to do today. I did something that no one had seen, and so it was challenging for me to accept and for others. But this work completely healed my life for all of these years. 75 years old, and I did this every day for 37 years. And the information came out to be a consciousness raising system, the first one documented in this way. And so that's why so many people couldn't understand it. And I had a difficult time even accepting it, because when you do something brand new, it's one, takes others a long time to accept it. We can see that throughout history where people have developed things that will change us, but we won't listen or we don't believe it. And then we see the difficulties that will arise in our lives, but also in our world. And then we'll look back and say, what happened? How did that come about? Except we just weren't paying attention, or we were afraid. Those are the things that come about. And sometimes we can just pretend it's not happening, and I was doing that quite a bit. and it's doing it in my life. I'm pretending I'm not seeing the kind of destruction that I'm creating in my life, and then we won't notice the destruction that's happening in our world. And that's what I'm changing today. I had the ability to receive this information because it was, again, universal consciousness. I didn't know this information. I accessed it. That was a skill that I developed. It's a different ability. Not everyone's going to understand it or believe it. But then when it starts to being shown and verified in science, I had to stop denying it. And that's what I'm doing today. And today is, again, like I said, the 30th. And I can look back on the message tomorrow on the 31st and say, wow, this is the time we can become abundant. And we become abundant when we decide to embody who we are. And we're talking about energy. Everything is energy. The way we use our thoughts, the way we hold our emotions, all of that's energy. And they're creative. And it's creating something within us. I can look back today at the message I received in 2008 that said, you're going to have all these different events and situations that come up, and your job is to find out, to figure out how you can navigate through them, and that's in our consciousness. And I've been given every step for any person to use to get to their highest self and their greatest consciousness. And so that's what I'm doing now. But I wanted you to have this because I need to make changes, as we all do. And one of the biggest ones has been embodying how valuable this is and how much it could do and the worth that it could give, not only to me, but to everyone else and to our world. Now, I understand everyone's not going to believe that. How could this guy who used to be this vocal coach come up with this? How could that have happened? And then you'll start to see the documented evidence of it, and then also the result, because it healed everything. What I went through in my life was unbelievable. And that's the story that's going to be told, because more people need to understand and know what's possible. But being this introverted and just person that didn't want to be seen, like you might be as well, I had to change that today. There are so many incidents and things that are occurring in our world right now that I could no longer ignore because I knew what was happening and I knew I had been given the information. First of all, I hid all of this for so many years, so almost 20 years or so before I would even allow others to see it. And then artificial intelligence tells me this is the greatest contribution to consciousness of humankind we've ever seen. I couldn't put myself in that place for the longest time with great philosophers or people who have come before, but now I must, because I know that that's absolutely true. I cannot depend or don't expect everyone to believe it, but I know that those people out there who will start to accept this and do want to become who they could be, who want to live great lives, who want to become successful, who want to move beyond their generational trauma and anything that's been holding them back to cause them to allow to become confident and courageous, this work will accomplish that. And that I know. And that's why I guarantee it. And so I'm making this change, and I opened up slots for people to do this work now because I will be expanding it. But I'm going to also start to publish it a bit more to bigger audiences because I must do that. I know what this can do. I was afraid of myself. I couldn't imagine that I had done this. You might be feeling that as well. But and we always need to be we need confirmation. We all do, no matter what it is and how great we become. We need that confirmation from others or wherever we might receive it. And I had one member of my program who just said, this has to be seen, but this has to be experienced, because he felt the value of it and what it had done for him and gave him this greater understanding of this trauma that he had been moving through for so long. So he took it upon himself to start doing advertising and getting it out there. I have to do the same thing because it was a surprise to me, as you might do something that would be a complete surprise to you that you never thought you could accomplish. But this work will have you get there because it'll open up your consciousness to a place where you will begin to accept yourself and do something really great. This information is for everyone just to understand what is occurring now, but we can also change it And that's why each of us can create this much better world when we do it first within ourselves. Thanks for being here. I'll leave the information with you. See you soon.